Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much for joining us here today. We're ready to kickstart the first panel of the second day, and I really hope that the electrifying energy we've had yesterday in this conference will be present today, and we're surely going to do our very best for that. It's only most fitting that following the keynote speech of Vice President Hojcik, we are now going to look even closer into the notions of clean technology development, of investment in Central and Eastern Europe, trying to understand what's at stake, what's the current state of play, and we won't only look at the present or the past of the region, but we will very much try to do what the theme of the conference is. We will try to envision the tomorrow of the region and try to shape it, of course, and we've got the rest of the day to discuss this with you. Now, let me just share a few key things to get your interest in the topic rising. So just to say, as you were traveling to Warsaw over this weekend on Saturday, as electricity prices fell all throughout Europe, it turns out that actually Poland had its lowest electricity prices ever. This means a lot of things. We won't go into that, but for sure it means that there's a transformation unfolding. Now, of course, yesterday we've already talked about the rapidly evolving geopolitical context, and so perhaps there's not a huge point going too much into that today. But of course, the notion of recreating a manufacturing industrial base in Europe and, let's say, relocating some of the supply chains has already been introduced as a notion of resilience in yesterday's keynote speech. This is a theme that we would like to discuss throughout today as well. Bogi was certainly not making an understatement yesterday when she said that Europeans have been shocked out of their compliance and their comfort zone as of recent developments in the US. But surely our comfort zone, the need to be pushed out of it, was long in the making, because of course when it comes to innovation and clean technology innovation, we know that Europe has been great at creating solutions, but not really that great at scaling them up in Europe. In fact, the example of the solar panel is the most used example in Brussels at any conversation, really. It's sadly not the only one. And in fact, only 8% of global scale-ups are present in Europe. And if we are to zoom in on Central and Eastern Europe, I can comfortably say that less than half of those are here. So there's a bigger rethink ongoing in Europe, wondering what can we do to actually make it easier and better for clean technologies to scale in Europe. And of course, Vice President Hojcik mentioned a little bit of the general thinking in the European Parliament at the moment. So just before I hand it over to my stellar panelists, who are, of course, also the co-founders of Cleantech for Central and Eastern Europe, and I will tell you a little bit about each of them, as well as they will have a chance to share with you from their experience, also their research. I do want to mention three things that have happened just in the last month in Brussels with regards to, broadly speaking, clean technology development in Europe. So first of all, at the end of February, the EU launched a clean industrial deal, which pledges 100 billion euros to support European manufacturing of clean technologies. I will follow this very closely, and of course the question of how much of this will come to technology in Central and Eastern Europe is a really important one for all of us. The second initiative I want to mention, launched on the 5th of March, is the Union of Skills, which really looks at exactly fixing the labor market shortages in a variety of sectors, but also, broadly speaking, in clean technology innovation. And so that is also an interesting development. And last but not least, now we're going to look to the future. We are in the next 2 months going to launch a EU strategy for startups and scale-ups. And that is really important. We very much plan and are in the process of engaging with this. We also would like to hear from you, and we have been all of yesterday, what needs to be in this strategy to really accelerate the support that startups in Central and Eastern Europe are receiving. So, let me introduce the panelists. Here to my right, there's Mirosław Janik, who is an investor, a business angel. He's a mentor with deep tech startups. He's also a non-executive director in a variety of organizations, including in the renewable energy space. And he's heading the Cleantech for CEE chapter, working on it, developing it alongside Magda and Bogi. Now, next to him, there's Magdalena Jabłońska, who's the CEO of the Foundation for Tech Entrepreneurship, or also known as Start Smart CEE, and effectively, she's our host here. So thank you for hosting us, Magda, and to everyone in your team, really. And last but certainly not least, we have Bogusława Skowrońska, whom you've already had the pleasure of meeting and hearing yesterday. She's in fact the reason why this is happening in Warsaw today, the reason why we're all here. So thank you very much to all three of you for accepting to be on this panel and for accepting me to join you as a co-founder of Cleantech for CEE. Now, Mirek, I will turn to you because I know that just today you have published, it's hot off the press, as they say, a report looking into the state of Cleantech in Central and Eastern Europe. What would you like to share with the audience here from the report?
Thank you very much. So finally, we have our brand. This is great. So as you could hear, Suzana already mentioned the European Parliament makes quite a lot towards the improving the situation on the startup stage, just to have more innovations on the European level. So here, So here in Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia, and in the Central Eastern Europe, we have quite a special situation. Let me tell you about this. Try to imagine that within that fantastic circumstances, where the European Parliament is pushing for innovation, there came to us two big funds asking us, hey, in your region, there is no any subject to acquire. We want to make something, some investment on that region, and a part of the big investment which has happened already a couple of years ago by American or Canadian Brookfield with the Polenergia, there is nothing. So what's going on here? So finally, we decided to investigate what is the situation and who we are. We are the coalition who brings together the technological companies, investors, and the research centers. We want to really build the innovation on our market, targeted innovation, which would be dedicated to the clean air or the quality of air, focusing on pollution as well. We want to find out the industry's transition, and of course we are as well very much focused on the transformation, exactly, and resilience. This is the word which I was missing. So this is very important for each of us, and we are focusing on that portion. So we built the team. So actually, Bogusława came to myself asking me, hey, maybe you could join us. So finally, of course, I decided to come. Bogusława, I don't need to present her. She's MIT and Harvard Business School alumni, together with Magda, who is a CEO of the Technological Foundation of Entrepreneurship. We built a team related to the Slovakia and Poland and Czech Republic, together with Nicole Solarova, who is our, let's say, exactly, she's there, who is our, let's say, arm in Slovakia and Czech Republic, and Kuba, who is still a student. I don't know really when this guy is sleeping, because he's every time working, so fantastic team. Look, because we just set up this organization half a year ago, we didn't have too much time to make a big research. But finally we focused, and we decided to focus on Czech Republic, Poland, Slovakia, because we believe that this region is still having a lot to do. Yeah, so if you can see, these numbers are quite small, but everything what is above 50 means that this is already danger. This is already, for healthy, for sensitive people, quite difficult to survive. Yeah, so therefore exactly we said, yes, this is exactly our starting point. Let's talk about this. We had more than 50 meetings with different participants of the market. So there were banks, fund of funds, VC funds, private equities, startups, scale-up companies, big corporations, consulting companies, and so on and so on. So fantastic discussions. We really had a chance to identify where is the problem. What surprised us very much was the level of investment which is already done in Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. This was more than 2%, which is, as you remember, till a couple of months ago, the level of our investment into the military defense. This is a huge amount of money, yeah, in this market invested already into the let's say, renewable resources, or overall, we say, this kind of transition or decarbonization projects. We have something to be proud as well on that market. Yeah? So we are one of the biggest exporter of the batteries to the European Union, and we are producer of the heat pumps, yeah, which is not that bad. Yeah? So there is a huge, let's say, experience on manufacturing, which I will tell a little bit later. Of course, there are as well some kind of new initiatives ready, especially in Poland, in the Czech Republic, yeah, and Slovakia as well, yeah, related to the hydrogen production. This was very, very fascinating for us, yeah, to discover. And we can see as well that in, for example, in Slovak Republic, we do not have any problem with the mixing of the energy because they are already done with the nuclear power plants. Yeah, so the difference are there as well in between countries. What is very important for us is that really we have the power in our region. So we have a manufacturing excellence. We are based on, of course, traditionally quite low labor cost and operational other costs, yeah, because we are coming from that coal culture, let's say, and the energy always was quite cheap for us, and only ETS fees made this cost a little bit higher. And it would be fantastic if all of that amounts would be really transferred to the transition projects, but unfortunately was not. Therefore, there was a problem.
Mirek, maybe for the non-Europeans in the room, I'll just explain the ETS stands for the emissions trading system of the European Union. It's the EU's carbon market, putting a price on ton of CO2 or CO2 equivalent and generating revenues in the billions to the member states. So that is the potential investment that Mirek is referring to.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And the good thing is as well that we are very well skilled on software production, on software developing on our region. Yeah? So this is traditional, let's say, Polish, Ukrainian, Russian, we would say, mathematics school. Yeah, from that region, we have plenty of startups who are leading on the global scene with the fantastic software application, yeah, and the global software application. So within ICT, we have a lot of solutions as well. The only problem which we identify, and really this is something what is for us our surprise, is that we do not have our own technologies. Every investment or every new investments which are coming to our region coming from outside. Outside from not only from Europe, but outside of Europe means from Asia most of the time. This is coming from China, from Taiwan. Yeah, so most probably you observe already that we are quite fine with the power, with the solar panels farms, with the, let's say, wind farms. But the old technology, really, believe me, comes from outside. Yeah, so this is nothing to do by ourselves. What we are keen on is a software application, and this is definitely something what I'm proud, because this makes us leader on software efficiency, let's say, on the energy efficiency projects. Yeah, so this is good. And our, let's say, challenge, our task, our mission is really to build the environment where everybody would cooperate to each other. Everybody means scientists, universities, research institutes, founders, tech accelerators, VC investors, state agencies, and towards really the foreign direct investors. This is our target. Try to imagine that scientists talking to the universities, we discovered they are not focused at all about some kind of innovations. For them, the most important part is the number of publications and number of students which they have on their group. So we asked ourselves, yeah, what are you writing on that publication if you do not have any kind of a risk project? You have full risk aversion only. Yeah? So there is no completely any kind of the acceptance of the risk on their work. Yeah? So this is something what definitely makes us, let's say, focus on that part of the market. And today, really, we issue our report. Yeah? So read this report. There are plenty of very interesting information, researches, very good comparisons as well in between countries. Yeah, so please accept it. Warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mirek. And of course, we will have a chance to, at some point, exchange with the audience. So if anyone has follow-up questions or wishes to add a perspective, that would be most welcome. But of course, before that, I'd be keen to hear the perspectives of the panelists. And Magda, I'm looking over to you. How would you describe the innovation ecosystem in the Central and East European region? Is it easy to be a startup here? Is it easy to find support to scale up?
Yes, the innovation ecosystem is evolving rapidly, as you may notice during even this conference. So the dynamic is huge in terms of innovation ecosystem and startup ecosystem as such. Poland itself is contributing 14% of GDP startup economy in the region, but this only stands for 4% of the EU. So, but 10 years or 15 years ago, there was like less than 1%, so this is quite a good number, taking into account the maturity level of the ecosystem. However, at the same time, the Cleantech perspective is a little bit different. After only these discussions we had in the past 6 months with Cleantech startups in the region, so there is like a structural problem. Both with commercialization and with scaling. And this is not because of lack of funding. Maybe there is a lack of funding from the perspective of startups because they do not see the opportunities that exist, or they are not presented to them in a way that they can really follow the different grant mechanism or different opportunities that are created by VCs. But at the same time, from the VC perspective, as it was said in the beginning and also in the Bogi talks yesterday, we lack investment projects for VCs in the region. And why is it? What we found out that from the startup perspective is they have some innovations in hand, mostly TRL 3, if we talk about hardware. But what we are waiting for is the market. And why they see market is not ready? Because of the different things. And one of the perspective is that both business awareness and people's awareness about how important is that topic, so this is one thing that creates the market, and also over-regulated, let's say, problem of the over-regulation. So it creates a risk for both them and for the investors they look for. So in terms of the creativity level or the potential we have, also the talent we have it all. Of course, we can direct the resources towards the goal of the whole European Union. So we will not face any lack of resources in some certain areas. But from our perspective is how we will address the question how to organize a market that those startups that we can create can develop their technologies and go forward with TRLs and also can scale up. And we found the answer somewhere, but I will not maybe explain it now. We'll wait for the follow-up questions.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that. And indeed, many of our findings should actually make their way to this upcoming strategy for startups and scale-ups in the EU. One of the ideas for the strategy is to create a 28th legal regime, which, of course, again, for the non-Europeans in the room, 28th is not a random number. It's just that we're 27 member states in the European Union, and creating a 28th legal regime would be a legal regime for startups to allow them to scale up in any country of the European Union without needing to actually register there and have operations in that member state. So in principle, this should streamline some of the operations. So let's see if that will materialize or not. It's quite an exciting idea. But I'd like to move on to Bogi. You have founded the Foundation for Technology Entrepreneurship. And of course, when you decided to do so, I'm imagining that there was something that pushed you in this direction. And I would just guess, but also invite you to tell us more about it, that it was probably the state of tech innovation in the region that made you think maybe there needs to be a push, maybe there needs to be some sort of a, catalyst of action. So I would be curious, when you look back at the decades that you've seen this region develop, so let's say the last 3 decades, what were some of the success stories for the region? What were the areas where you felt improvement was needed, your foundation was needed? And then, of course, if there's a lesson from these 30 decades that can help us start imagining the future, what would that lesson be in your view?
So time is the most important asset for any founder. It's not money, it's time. Because you're trying to build something from scratch. Your vision, you need to pull all the resources together. And of course, there is a ton of questions. You're entering into an area of unknown. And getting answers to those questions, partially, you do it by trying things out. But what's the point of trying out things that have been tried by someone else, but you don't know that someone else has tried it? So usually, founders are very successful in ecosystems that are very well connected. And why is that important? Because the time to get an answer is dramatically reduced if you are working in a very close-knit ecosystem. Just think about this conference. I mean, we probably each met a lot of people, and you are going from one person to the next, asking a question, getting an answer, sharing ideas, and that's the idea. You need to really organize a very strong ecosystem in which you have founders, experienced founders, less experienced founders, you have investors, you have corporates. You need to pull things together. It's extremely important because then founders will get their answers quicker and will not make as many mistakes. So that's why we founded Foundation for Tech Entrepreneurship, to basically shorten that time, to get everybody connected. And similarly, when we looked at the Cleantech scene, what has happened in Europe, there were Cleantech chapters in every single country in Europe except for Central and Eastern Europe. only the Nordic, the Baltic countries connected, but we were not really plugged in. So our group said, okay, it's an important theme. Quality of air is not good in our region. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, not all of you are from Poland, but sometimes it's difficult to breathe. And, you know, we all care that we are living in a clean, healthy environment, you know, and whatever has been polluted, we need to clean up. And the best way to do it through technologies, but best through technologies that have been tried, right? So if there were chapters all around Europe that already tried things, we said, why don't we create a chapter with a similar mission and basically plug into the network that's already in place, because these guys already collected a lot of knowledge. So whatever we do, we can learn from their experience and kind of create a European know-how team that can easily get answers as necessary. So that was our thinking, and we put together initially a very small group. Suzana, thank you for joining, because she was very much part of, she still lives in Brussels, and she's very connected to everything that's going on in the European Union, and we're very thankful for that, because you know that there's a lot of acts and it's difficult to track everything, but she's really on top of it, so that's great. And she's bringing all this know-how also to our region, and we can, you know, quickly disseminate and make sure that people who are working with us really know it. So we have a lot of issues in our region, but as you've heard, it's difficult. Some of the founders who may be here in the scene, I don't know how many of you are actually starting clean tech ventures, but it's not easy. And it's a question of basically the market on the one hand being already supplied, because as Mirek mentioned, you know, I don't know how many of you knew, but like for me, when we were studying the landscape, it was a bit of news that Poland is #1 exporter of ion batteries. But this is happening thanks to the investment of LG, of Korean company. Super, we are very grateful for that. But at the same time, how many tech startups in solving point solutions around that space have been organized? We did not find any, right? So I think this is where we have to put some focus, that in addition to this foreign direct investment, which brings a lot of know-how, in parallel, there are also technology companies, indigenous technology companies that have a way to flourish. How to do it? We are not sure yet. I have to admit, we are trying, we have an approach that we want to try out. And one of the toughest things for any founder is to find a good problem to solve. I think the startups fail most of the time because they are solving a wrong problem. Either it's not an antibiotic, it's a vitamin. And unless you are really into the particular space, you understand it extremely well, it's difficult to really understand what is the problem you should solve. So looking into the future from where we are now, I think we need to create an environment where the problems to be solved, the relevant problems to be solved for the startups are identifiable in a better way. And we think it could be possible if we, again, close-knit the community of foreign direct investors who will be joined by accelerators and scientists, because scientists solve deep tech problems. And these problems have to be communicated. And we need to pull together the different teams of people who actually listen to it and have the ambition to solve those problems. That's the idea, to create an ecosystem in which this can happen. We'll probably try different approaches because we don't yet have all the answers. It's a method that we want to try. And hopefully, as a result of this, did I finish?
Interruptions.
So as a result of it, we hope to have basically some indigenous clean tech companies. Because guys, it's not the question of capital, it's a question of structure of the market. You know, the founders cannot really surface with their ideas in a sufficient volume, solving relatively important problems so that the founders can actually invest. And we need to collect scientists with founders, otherwise things will not move forward. And there's a lot of money to be made, and I think big ambitions can be fulfilled because we have a job to do in Central and Eastern Europe with cleaning up the neglect that has happened over the last decades.
Thank you so much, Bogi, for placing it in, putting it in perspective in that way. And so maybe I would have 3 follow-ups from your intervention that I would like to share with the audience. And on the topic of clean air, I would actually like to quote Julian Popov, a former Minister of Environment in Bulgaria, who's famously said, "There is still an iron curtain in Europe, and it is the quality of air. Because when you look at the map of air quality across Europe, you see a stark difference between the air covering Central and Western Europe, so Western Europe, and then Central and Eastern Europe. So the difference is massive. And so I think, in reality, this ties into the innovations that are happening in these regions, and of course, those that help us move to less polluting technologies. We haven't been moving as fast here as Western Europe, Northern Europe, Southern Europe have. And so that is what we're trying to fix. There's a panel exactly on this topic on clean air quality and clean air technologies in Central and Eastern Europe starting at 11:15. So if you're interested, please join us. The second remark, I wanted to follow up on yours because you've referred to the work that involves this pan-European movement, which is, so up until today, indeed, I was very much involved with building this pan-European movement in my role at Cleantech for Europe, which is a network of coalitions of investors, innovators, as well as regional initiatives around Europe. And you rightfully point out the obvious missing gap was actually over Central and Eastern Europe. And when you put together the countries, so starting from the Czech Republic and going into Southeastern Europe, all the way to Bulgaria, you're actually looking at 50% of the European Parliament. So this is a representation of the population share as well. So it's really tremendous effort and tremendously important that you're all doing, that we're all doing, that we hopefully will have support from you as well going forward, because this is much needed. A little bit of the theory of change, why these regional initiatives happened, let's say, in the Nordic countries, in the Baltic countries. The energy infrastructure matters a lot in projects, right? Because whether it's, I don't know, data centers requiring electricity, you still need to know that you can provide clean electricity, or else you amplify the air pollution problem, as we've just discussed. And so it makes sense to focus on these energy issues in a regional let's say, initiative perspective, just because we are actually quite connected between countries, but not across regions in Europe. So to give you an idea, Spain and Portugal connected to each other, but they actually have only one interconnector to the rest of the European continent. And so this is a problem that at the moment we're trying to fix in Europe. We're talking about grids a lot. There's the idea of a super grid connecting all of us faster and making affordable, abundant and clean energy available everywhere. But so this is a project for the next 5 years. And it will very much depend, its success, on whether or not we can make it real in Central and Eastern Europe, connecting to Southeastern Europe as well. Of course, the grid needs to connect all of us. So electricity made in Romania, going to the Czech Republic from Ireland to Poland, why not? So that's something to aim for. And now, because I think we should just jump to the solutions and really have a chance to discuss them with you. Magda, you actually said you know what the solutions would be, and I would like to invite you to share those with us. I will then ask Mirek to reflect as well, give Bogi a chance to reflect, and then eventually open it up to our panelists, asking them, well, effectively, please let us know if you disagree with the solutions, because that only improves our process, our conclusions. And equally so, if you agree with them, but you think we need to go further, also let us know. So, Magda, over to you.
So our idea is the same as Bogi said, how we, what was the motivation for organizing the Foundation for Tech Entrepreneurship 10 years ago. So we will probably use the same approach here, because this requires organizing the ecosystem for cleantechs. So organizing an ecosystem for cleantechs means let's gather those cleantech startups we have, those innovators, and give them a voice. Because, as you said, we are, as a Central and Eastern Europe, are very huge stake in the European Union, let's say, representation. However, our startups and innovators are underrepresented group. So they are not listened because they are not talking to anybody, probably. While gathering information from other chapters, they are very active in Brussels, very active, and very strategic in their actions. While we are just we are thinking about our next move or next steps, but we are not organized well so far. And so we want to organize this structure that can bring some ideas, because what I love when talking to policymakers, if they listen to us, and if they listen, what are our needs? And when I was, attending last year Cleantech for CEE summit, there was different roundtables organized by MPs, so European Parliament representatives, and they were listening to scale-ups, VC investors, and organizations like me. What do we need from them? What law we need, what kind of actions we need, because this is what they need to do. Because the problem is there in Brussels. This is over-regulated structure somehow. So what we can do for you in order you organize this market. So I believe we should do the same in Central and Eastern Europe and in Poland, in each country, because we are so different. These are not like similar countries. The history is probably same. Yeah, the roots are very similar, but there are many differences on at many levels. And so give the voice and structure, and also organize the market in a way that those startups understand the needs. That Bogi mentioned, let's collect problems we have, real problems. Problems meet huge market that is behind the problem. So whether we are able to organize startups and innovators that can solve that problem, and also those partners for them, business partners, investors, that they can support them at each stage. Yeah, so let's organize coalition. Let's hear what we need. Organize a structure how we can, present that to those that are either our policymakers or our business partners. And let's maybe and what we would like to also test is how we can now navigate the innovation policy that will be more active towards these foreign direct investments, how we can negotiate the future of our collaboration, how to build links with those investors we have, because this is not that we are a host. We are, once they invest, we are organizing like a family in our country. Yes, so let's grow our children. Yeah, let's support our children. So and as children, I mean those innovators we have. So let's help them to structure these collaborations. And now we want to test this model also with Cleantech market.
Thank you so much, Magda. Plenty to do, and I very much look forward to it. Mirek, what are the solutions you would recommend?
So I must confirm what Magda said, that for many startups, making the really basic analysis of the requests, of the problem analysis, really any kind of the solution analysis is not done properly. This is the issue for many startups. And therefore, they cannot fly. They simply cannot fly. From the other side, what Bogusław said before, the time is the most important thing and the resource. For many investors, especially as well when we have some kind of tranches of payment from the European Union, subventions and so on, the solution needs to be ready quite soon. Therefore, investors or founders of the big factories are not taking care about the local supply chain. They need to come with all puzzles. And this is the issue as well, yeah, that locally is quite difficult to organize from scratch, in fact, all of that organizations who could stay the part of the value chain. Of course, they need to operate with the local suppliers like service technicians, installators, some kind of maintenance or operators and so on. This is the must. This is always the heavy thing to be given by the main factory from China or from wherever. Yeah, so that level needs to be local. But anyway, because of this speed, this time, unfortunately, there is sometimes difficult to organize for startups some kind of a solutions locally. Yeah.
But in case we will not invest it into this now, so when?
Yeah, maybe one more thought, that I think what has worked in other chapters when we analyzed it is binding together the resources, and the chapter is really the spokes, the advocacy group towards different parties, because usually, you know, when you have a big corporation, that big corporation usually has a advocacy department in form of PR or corporate affairs, or basically lots of spokespeople that are able to act on a lot of different levels for this corporation. And it's necessary because the needs of that corporations have to be communicated to the policymakers, to the investors, to a lot of different parties. When you have a tiny organism that is just being founded, they just don't have a chance to act in a similar way. So what we have actually found out in the other chapters in Europe, what has worked is if you bring together along a particular goal 4 or 5 different entities, 6 different entities, then you have a coalition of people who are speaking with one voice and are trying to represent a particular goal to different parties. And I think this is what we want to try here in Central and Eastern Europe. Initially, in 3 countries, we are calling ourselves CEE, but we are right now only Poland, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. And try it out and see if it's going to work. But I think every single region, every single part of Europe has a slightly different problem. In the 3 countries that we have studied, the problem is that the supply of clean techs is just not sufficient. First, we have to work on supply, and once we increase that, I think, you know, the situation, then we'll find another problem. So I guess the challenge to you in the room, if you know people who care about this issue, here is our address, Cleantech for CEE. Please make sure that they are connected to us. The website that will be launched very shortly actually going to be interactive, that will be adding entities that are active in the environment so that we're all aware who is in our landscape, because we want to see that this environment will basically increase and that we can observe how it grows. And it should be clean tech startups, it should be scientists, universities, and investors, angel and VCs who are active in the ecosystem. So that's what we're trying to do, to bring everybody together.
Thank you so much, Bogi. That's an invitation to everyone here, and I'd like to open it up to questions. I've already had a gentleman flagging a question here in the front, and I think there's somebody else in the back. So could we get a microphone here? If you wouldn't mind standing up, this way they can locate you easier. Yes?
Enjoyed your comments. DJ Nag from Columbus, Ohio in the US. Given the theme technologies for a changing world, and Bogi, you said something very golden, you know, maybe we are looking at solving the wrong problems. My question to you is, are we thinking too locally? Could we have the solutions for the rest of the world? Because in the last 3 months, I've traveled to at least 7 cities that I can count, which have at least 3 to 5 times worse air quality than yours, where I'm sitting here in Warsaw, right? So are we thinking about technologies that could solve the problems of the world and potentially bring in investors into these technologies from a global perspective?
Thank you so much, DJ. Terrific question. I think yesterday we talked a lot about solving global problems, that we have to stop thinking this is, I'm solving a problem in Poland only. We have to think globally. We have to start somewhere. The immediate problem that you're solving, it's a proof, it's your product market fit. First, you have to solve something close to you. Once you prove that, you look for the next best market. And you have to evaluate all markets globally, everywhere. Is it India? Is it Pakistan? Is it some other part of the world that I'm going to move next? And of course, if we have within Europe, with all the Cleantech chapters, it facilitates for any founder to access a European market. The Cleantech is not in other parts of the world, but it should not stop a good founder for actually expanding to that other market, absolutely. So this is not a call to just look for the problems that are here, but once the problem is proven, we find the solution, go globally and be very successful.
And what we also noticed that already founders that couldn't, indigenous companies that couldn't find the market locally, they are already somewhere in the world. So they are really successful there. So let's focus how we can organize our market, so our market can also create opportunities for startups.
Thank you so much. One last question in the back. Gentleman with the hand up, please stand up so they can see you for the mic. I would just say that, having a success story in Europe is important overall, globally, simply because we're so economically divergent at the European continental level, so that we actually have to share from our experiences how we've made it. But in order to share that, we have to first make it as a continent. Please, gentleman in the back.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much for a very interesting panel discussion. It was a pleasure. I run a Cleantech startup here in Poland myself, so I'm very much aware of the struggles, sort of systematic struggles of growing a company, especially in this field. And an idea that we've had is to sort of take a top-down approach and facilitate some sort of a collaboration between public sector clients, so governmental institutions and startups, because those are the type of clients where you can scale rather quickly, they have the budget, and when they implement solutions offered by startups, they can be applied quite widely rather quickly. But working with public sector clients, governmental institutions, comes with its own struggles. Tender offering processes that are unfavorable for new companies and all of the other problems that I'm sure you're aware of. So my question to all of you is, do you have any specific ideas for facilitating a wide collaboration between local startups and the local governments here so that we can give our technologies to cities, municipalities, so on and so forth? Thank you.
This is something we want to test in the coming months with one selected city, how we can structure even procurement, That what happened in the corporate side, like 10 years ago when we started open innovation model with different startups, there were no procurement that we can use for purchasing startup solution, because it was not non-existent. Now it exists. So I believe it will happen also with public sector.
Mirek, would you like to add something, and then we will have to close the panel because we've run out of time.
One of my professors in the past always said that don't plan too much, because there are so many factors which are going to be changed that you are not perfect at all in planning, but be prepared for the future. This is the most important, let's say, lesson which I keep in my mind all the time. But
I think that's an excellent lesson to wrap the panel on. Oh, you'd like to add one more thing?
Let me only thank to our sponsors, because we have fantastic partners, Breakthrough Energy and the Clean Air Fund, who gave us a chance really to build this organization. Thank you very much. And of course, our home in Foundation for Technological Entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.